All right, folks. Thanks for joining us today. We have live audience here in New York City, and we have folks online watching this presentation. Thank you so much for taking time to listen to us and learn a little bit more about the solutions out there around the Microsoft Project Server, Project Online, Microsoft PPM, as it's been branded. Again, thank you so much for attending this. If you have any questions, folks online can use the chat and ask the questions, and Daniel will be able to address those questions. And we have, again, live audience here. So I'll get started. So a few words about the session: organizational effectiveness for Agile within a PMO. And we're going to be talking about basically Waterfall and Agile blending together and sometimes fighting. But basically, what I try to call it as a kind of successful marriage. This is where we're heading to right now. And they're not always good times, but sometimes we need to find the way to move the value forward. So we'll talk about some of these. As far as the agenda, introduction of the topic, how to manage Agile, teams in the hybrid approaches with Waterfall. So we'll talk about that. Scaled Agile Framework, Agile PPM. This is one of the frameworks that we're offering as far as how we can actually make it happen within the Project Online or Project Server. We'll talk about communications, meetings, escalations within Agile overhead. Maybe does it really make sense sometimes? Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it does. We'll talk about that. Capability reports. We'll have some time to talk about some of the technology. But I guess primary focus of this particular presentation is talking about the framework, talking about the concept, and we'll try to not dive into the technical side of the thing just yet, because I truly believe that these days technical is not a problem. We have so much different technology available to us, so it's becoming hard to manage that complex technology. So here we're going to be talking about how we can actually approach this volumes of varieties of technology to apply to the business, so it actually makes sense, so it actually generate the value for the business. So before I completely get to the presentation, a few words about myself. My name is Alexander Rodov. I'm a Microsoft Project MVP, being awarded the third year. Thank you, Microsoft, for acknowledging the contribution to the PPM community. I'm happy to develop more and more value for the businesses around as far as PPM. I've been doing this been in this business since to be precise, 2003. Started as a project manager and then evolved into the consulting, coaching, PPM type of role. And I'm running the gold partner firm, gold partner PPM competency, where we have consultants and branches across the nation. So proud to develop those solutions, those consulting, advisory services, framework services for our customers. So, anyway, any of you can talk to me or Daniel or Jose, previous speaker, about any of these questions, any of these technology questions. We'll be happy. We'll make time to meet with you in person, on-site or off-site, remote, on the call. You just make the call and say when you want to meet with us. We'll make the way to find the time and answer all of your questions. I mean, all of the questions. Okay. All right. I'm sorry. Within 2 hours. Look, if you want 5 hours, I'll give you 5 hours. Well, Daniel will probably kill me if I keep promising this. But basically, if you need more hours, we'll spend as much time with you as needed to get all of your questions answered. So I can personally make my mission, make my life mission to serve my customers as, to the best I can. So, unless it conflicts with my, with my wife. So, it usually doesn't, but, I'll just do a quick check. Anyway, so Waterfall and Agile, just a few words about this. I don't want to spend too much time on that. Agile is like a new thing. People like new things, right? It's so exciting. It's so not boring. People say, "Oh, project management. This is so boring. This is so." People have been hit by management, been disregarded by their team members. So like, the team members are like, "What are you doing even?" Right? And people are just talking. Seems like they're not doing anything. So this whole project management, career path became not that attractive, as Agile. Oh, Agile is like a new cool thing that everybody like jumping on right away. Started with like a bunch of kids, folks that were skiing around and like a lot of action, like a lot of things to do in life, and they said, we're gonna scratch all this PMI, PMBOK, methodology, following the process. It's boring. We're gonna get things done easier, quicker, better, get the value out the door, right? They come up with this incremental things. But the truth is, this technology, this methodology was in place way back. So this rapid development to technology or extreme development, people were locked in the room, and say, okay, let's get this done now. And then they were just getting things done. Tomorrow another day. So iterations. So it's a new thing, cool thing. It's easier to sell to your team members, I guess, right? So people are jumping on it. And you will see the Agile frameworks are popping up. So let's put it on the enterprise. Let's put it on steroids. Let's put it on a high speed, highway, so we can actually use this cool thing and take advantage of it as much as we can and bring it to the organization. So a lot of big enterprises are jumping on it, not just small shops, not just a small. So quick mathematical justification of possible value of the Agile. And I'm saying possible because, in math, you can have different outcomes based on different inputs, right? If you have a lot of changes in your project, right? The square footage of this blue area. I hope it's blue for everyone. Depends on the screen resolution of screen settings. But anyway, this blue square footage area telling you the amount of work that you need to do if you follow the change, right? So if you follow the change, the change, through the iteration within the Agile process, it tells you that you need to take this direction or take that direction. So you kind of follow that immediate need, and then finally get to this objective, right? Whatever that happens to be, you don't know. At the very beginning, we were heading this way. We actually landed, someplace else. So within the waterfall, you just have less amounts of these iterations. We can possibly adjust your journey, adjust your route, and say, well, you were too late. Didn't react to the very first change. You had one change request approved, and then another change request approved, but you finally landed at the same place. So the amount of work that is on that yellow space is basically telling this is how much more work we actually have done to actually get to the same objective. But again, this is just a representation of the favorable look at the Agile. It could be vice versa. You may have these changes popping up, all the way to the, higher quadrant or higher section of this chart, where just meticulously following this waterfall concept would actually result into less work versus the agile work. So it's a trade-off, and you have to put good controls over either process in order to get to your objective with the minimum amount of work, with the minimum amount of resources. All right, I've been practicing talking through this slide, through other conferences, but I think I managed to nail it this time, to the exact point that I'm trying to make. Okay, so business wants all these things. Build new products, do something better for the business, make more money, save more money. They say, we want all of this, and then they come to the PMO, they throw this into the PMO, or we do the bill. We need to do more billing. We need to increase the billing. We need to throw more people into projects, and make more value for the customer, so we get more billing, so we get more revenues. So they do all of this, and they come to the PMO and say, okay, so how much is it going to cost, and when it's going to be done? I mean, business wouldn't care. Wouldn't care what do you use. You use Project Server, you use Project Online, you use napkins. Yeah, they don't care. As long as you create the value for the business, great. And as long as it doesn't cost them a fortune, even better, right? So they wouldn't care about this. And the ultimate question, before we get to this ultimate question, then when they give you a call, or when you're at the board meeting or the steering committee meeting, they say, how are we doing on this project? How are we doing on that project? And you have 15 seconds to actually make your point and say, oh, we're doing on this project X, Y, Z. And if everything looks good, then you probably wouldn't ask the question. But the reality is not everything is good all the time. And if it's not good, you need to have some good justification. You need to have the mountains of data supporting your statement. Say, we're red on this, we're late on this project, but this is how we're going to fix it. This is how we're going to address it. We have five mitigation plans in place. 3 change orders approved. Client has been communicated. You have all this information in place, ready, available, because you don't know which project you could be called on, which project you will be answered. You'll have to answer this question. How are we doing? We don't know. We don't know how we're doing without having some meaningful information that would support our statement and will support our mitigation of those issues that are coming up. So the point in this slide is basically this. Regardless of our methodology, we use Agile, we use Waterfall, we use Hybrid, whatever you use, for the classic planning ahead of time, they're going to say how much is going to cost and when it's going to be done. You can do Agile. I mean, sorry, but this is one of those points where Agile is not really excelling. Is they cannot say when it's going to be done, and they cannot say how much it's going to cost. And I don't know why I say they, but we basically in this case. We can't. If we're an Agile shop, we don't know when things are going to be done by default, right? So we need to call SMEs, subject matter experts, and say, okay, well, this project, how much time it typically takes? I say, well, it's going to take 6 months, teams of 5, DBAs, this. Oh, okay. Now we're talking. Now we have some sort of a high-level plan. Now we start getting into this classic waterfall planning cycle, regardless of the methodology we use to actually implement that project. So for the planning, the project, we would still need to use the waterfall. So okay, so let's move on. What's next? Under PMO umbrella, we think about, okay, what is it as a PMO we're concerned about? We're concerned about budgets, we're concerned about schedules, we're concerned about statuses, what's going on in the project, are we in budget, are we going to be late, are we going to be fired, are we going to be, all these things are a concern. And then you have to, on the one side is a PMO, you have a business asking for the project or regulatory asking for the project, and on the other hand, you have your teams. that are most of the time are not, let me go back, the teams that are most of the time are not reporting to the PMO directly. Teams like from engineering, teams from whatever, and they're not reporting. We don't have, PMO doesn't have direct control over these teams. So how do we deal with them? And guess what? Some of these teams have zero knowledge about the Agile. Some of the teams have zero knowledge about the Waterfall. Some of the teams have zero knowledge about both. So how do we deal with this diverse, methodologies, this variety of methodologies in the organization? How do we deal with that? So PMO is umbrella. We deal with this. What do? We need to put it on the one, just basically in the basic terms. Let's put it all on the same page. Let's get all of these guys on the same page and say, let's call it Waterfall guys. Let's call it Agile guys. Let's get them at the table. Let's put the whiteboard in front of them and say, okay, how do I, as a PMO, should report your progress? Well, Waterfall guys say, we have percent complete, we have phases, we have methodology, gateways, yada, yada, yada. We have for whole SDLC and throw the book of, the brick book on the table. This is our methodology. Great. I can work with that, PMO would say, right? Agile. Well, we have scrums, we have velocities, we have teams, we have sprints, we have, all these, attributes, another book on the table, right? So how do we make these two books one book? How do we make these two talk in the same language? And then, it's hard to kind of comprehend, these methodologies are kind of different, but we found a way to find the synergies, find the ways to actually roll it up at the same level. So some of the basic concept of percent complete could be also translated from Agile as from Waterfall. And from Waterfall, it's kind of more clear, like how much work is done, and percent of work complete out of the entire work. You can kind of get the idea, what's the percent complete. From the Agile side, you would say how many stories are completed versus stories that have been planned to complete it, right? Or the stories, the entire backlog for this project. You can come up with some of the similar metrics that you can use at the PMO level and roll it up and map it out so you can actually bring those two together. So basically, in the more kind of technical architecture terms, we're talking about the integrated data model, where we take the attributes from both and we're trying to understand what are the aggregation rules at the PMO level, so we can roll up the information for different projects, sub-projects, programs into portfolios, and then as a PMO state as overall. Okay. Basically, we would like to see those methodologies as one household. One household. I mean, I'm not talking about wife and husband relationship. Is maybe hot topic or anything, but a household. And then sometimes these are the kids in the house, and we need to make sure that they're still smart and bringing good ideas, but we need to manage it. We need to manage it. And then underlying benefits of doing this under one roof is resource management across Agile and Waterfall, time tracking across Waterfall and Agile. That brings it all house into one household where the electric bill is being paid by the PMO, if you will, right? The utilities utility bills are paid by the PMO. So how much energy we need to spend altogether in order to have most efficient household. Okay. I keep doing this analysis about the household, the marriage, and so yeah. Sometimes it's easier to communicate. Challenges when we're trying to kind of bring this household together and trying to connect Agile and Waterfall. Need to roll up data at the portfolio level. So this is what I just talked about. Map the data understand the mapping between the two, how this aggregates to the overall portfolio of programs, and let them use their tools. I mean, let these kids play their game. I mean, this is what they're good at. This is what they get most efficient work coming out of it. I mean, if they like TFS or Jira or something else, let them do it. If they're the most efficient in doing that, let them do that. But as a PMO, you would need to understand. You need to understand what they're doing. You need to some control. Say, okay, you do it there. Just give me 3 things. Give me the status of your stories. Give me the whole backlog of the stories, and I don't want anything else from you. They'll be happy. They'll be happy, and you will get the data you need for your reporting purposes.
Is this reliable, Dave?
Well, make them be responsible and accountable for their own thing. Well, I mean, look, how much I would like to relate to like the household and kids and everything. We're in business anyway. So we come to work and we're in business. We're getting paid, right? We're getting paid for doing the work. If you're telling me that the best tool for you to manage your work is this, then please keep the information current. Keep the information, up to date. So I'm gonna take this information and hold you accountable for the information you put in your own sandbox, whatever the Jira or whatever that is. Jira Pivotal Tracker, in the version 1, we've done, we've connected to all of them. So, multiple tools. Let them deal with these tools. We'll just connect and grab the information we need from that. Understand how it rolls up and maps out to our PMO, and we're done. We can click the button, run the report, get information from all of these Agile tools, whatever the tools, and have the portfolio status information in hand, so we can answer the question: how are we doing on this project? Click. Oh, this project, 55% of stories are done. We're in sprint 4, 5 sprints to come. We've completed X amount. We have these teams. You have the information. You have the real information right there, plus the budgetary information or whatever additional information or tracking information that you can leverage from the actual PMO overarching umbrella. Team members prefer external software. That's that. The resource management, time management. So resource management. There's a way how we translate the velocities of teams to produce certain amount of work, which translates into capacities of the teams. Not just saying so on the regular HR terms, we deal with FTEs, right? 0.5 FTEs, 5.6 FTEs, whatever FTEs we have, full-time equivalents. And then on the Agile side, they have teams and team members. Well, how I mean, we know the FTE, but how much work does it really translate into? So when we have the stories, and we're going to be talking, seeing some of the screens. About this particular topic, but basically we'll be able to translate the velocities, which is basically how many story points I can do per sprint, so which is already time bound, and then this we can bring over to the EPM and have side by side Waterfall and Agile teams together on the capacity planning, resource capacity planning charts, resource capacity planning information. We'll talk about this in a few slides. But maybe one. How are we doing on time? We good? Okay, good. 60M, 60I. This is our 2-hour frameworks that we're promoting basically within our engagement with the client. And these are the frameworks. These are not paid, additional licensed pieces of software. This is the framework. This is the configuration with some minor additional tweaks, if you like. But this is what we figured out the best way to introduce the Agile within the project server, project online. I'm not talking about the project professional, which is more rigorous scheduling tool. and it's meant to be for schedulers, for people who know what they're doing within them as project professional. 1,000 lines, dependencies. It's all there. This is completely cloud, Microsoft Cloud framework presented by our company. So 6PM is basically, if you don't have an Agile tool in place right now, or you don't have a good adopted tool in place right now, you have, let's say, Project Online, you may have Agile teams work within Project Online without going outside of Project Online. So that's if you would like to bring the Agile teams in-house to let them do the work, do the Agile sprints and planning iterations, backlogs, everything within them, within the Project Online. The 6DI is just the case when you have already teams in place using Jira, using TFS, using, big organizations. They have teams all over the place. And we need to get the information from these teams into our PPM system. So that's the 6DI there. The I stands for integration. The way it's basically set up, we have one additional point here, the integration broker, where we have more complex integration requirement where we say we need to look for the information from different systems, not just the Agile, but the Agile is our specialty, but the systems like HR or financial systems. We can get the feed from these systems on a regular basis. Again, include this feed mapping, in the overall PMO mapping, right? Say, okay, for each project we need to have the budget number because each project has a record in our financial system. And they would like to track actuals versus budget. So we like to get the feed from them and get the metrics calculated. So how we're deviating from the original budget. So we can connect to those systems, right? And again, should be mapped and understood. How would you roll it up? The sample of this is the illustration of the different ways of doing this mapping, and sometimes people are locking themselves in the concept of this is a project in my project online or a PPM system, and there should be a product or there should be a story or there should be a project or epic on Agile side. It doesn't have to be. It's different. It is different. It's for some organizations, they decided to configure their Agile environment like, okay, we're gonna look at ethics first. We're gonna look at products first. We're gonna look at releases as projects. So each release could be a project. So it really different type of mappings. So the way we set it up, the broker, is that we say which object on the PPM side would be associated or at which level mapped on the Agile side. So project to project is the most common way of doing it, but it could be project to release, and this release is actually a part of the project, and you may have multiple releases. So each release becomes a project. And you may want to track each of this release as projects in the PPM, and it's all tied to, sitting down and talking about, okay, what's the budget requirement? What's the requirement from the? Why would you do that? Why would you assign a project to a release? And then we just again put this whiteboard, have this mapping once and for all, figure it out, locked down. And then have all the teams accountable for their thing. With an Agile, fine. Go ahead, do releases, do backlog, do everything you want. We're going to grab it at the right level and roll it up at the PMO at the right level. And we're going to run the report. The PMO is not going to create any data. PMO is going to just represent the data based on that mapping. This is the illustration, the example of the Safe Agile framework and frameworks that we're using, fully aligned with the scaled Agile framework. This is a particular company that they're doing this scale and agile at the enterprise level. And as you can see, you can put agile on steroids and have it fully blown like this without even waterfall flavor, in place. But as we already know, at some point you may get back to the classic waterfall concept of planning before we get into the agile. All right. Sample screenshots. Basically, this is the sample with the Jira, and sample with on the left side. There's kind of not really common color we picked, but believe it or not, this is Project Online. It can look different, but the point is that you're linking or showing how we can within the Project Online. We can say, okay, this project is associated with this project in Jira. Click the drop down. It will load all the projects that are not assigned yet, and say, okay, well, this project is linked to that project in Jira. That's the only thing you would do as a user. Everything else is done automatically. Everything else is it would know that, okay, so this project is linked to this project. So and next time we run a report for this PPM project, it will already pick up the data for the respective Jira project and load all kinds of backlog items, completed stories, tasks, whatever we say we want to pick from that Jira environment, it will automatically do that at that very level that we set it up. So, and you can get more granular. You can have tasks within PMO and say maybe I want to create PMO, within the PMO in my schedule, I want to create like 5 different tasks, and I want to promote them to be stories. Click, promote them to be stories, publish. The stories magically pop up on the right Jira project. And the stories are there. And then when the stories, this couple of screenshots. I'm going to dive into each of these screens in a second. And then within the Agile, well, actually, let me talk about this a little bit more. So, and then when you're at the Agile environment, you can move those tasks around and then move it to progress or done or whatever the methodology you're using there. It will automatically feed that data back to the PPM. So, this is the 6DM. I just want to quickly talk about the 6DM. This is the scenario where we don't have anything else other than 6DM, other than Project Server or Project Online. This is particularly the framework for Project Server or Project Online. So it has the capability of the task board. It has the capability of the team members, of the team rooms. It has the capabilities for all kinds of reporting and resource management. And let me get to the first one, is the epic prioritization. The epics are typically the part of the Agile framework. On average, you can see epics almost in every single Agile environment. So epics are typically larger themes, larger portfolio items within the organization. We need to do this big thing. This is like an epic. We need to create new platform. On Waterfall terms, that would be a program, right? And Agile world, this is the epic. So basically say, well, in this case, doing the mapping exercise, epics in Agile world will equal programs on the PPM, on the Waterfall world. So I keep emphasizing this concept of mapping needs to be done ahead of time. You need to understand what is going to mean what, and then bring everybody else in the organization, to the same picture. It could be one-page, simple chart where you say, this is how we're going to roll up the data. This is what I'm going to be asked, like how we're doing. This is how I'm going to roll up the data and answer the question. So please make sure, accountable bodies of these boxes on this chart, make sure your data is current. Okay? And then, print out the cheat sheets and print out, this paper and stick it into the wall in every single cubicle in the organization. Say, okay, this is how we run the PMO. This is how we operate the PMO. So within the ethics, we have the module where we can say, well, we're planning this budgets, this priorities, so we can run the portfolio analysis, and Dan has the full session about that. Not for the folks online, unfortunately, but ask Dan, he will set it up with you. We can run the portfolio analysis against our ethics, because we the only thing we need some budgets. We need some budget for the ethics. And again, this is the classic waterfall approach, maybe, by calculating average number of stories, average number of teams, and time that we need to implement the project. We can come up with some of the budget constraints or some of the resource constraints. So that's the portfolio analysis within with the Agile flavor of it. Backlog. This is the heart. This is the heart of Agile, right? This is where it starts. This is where it's tracking. This is where we pick up the work and then start doing the work, prioritizing the work. So basically, in a nutshell, this is a list, right? I mean, this is a list. We customize it a little bit. I mean, we put some thoughts into how we want to organize this list. But basically, this is a one big, table of the backlog items that may, through the life cycle, get into the stories. May through the life cycle may get into the completed stories or not approved stories that have all kinds of different attributes. They have attributes like release or priority. Whatever you want to put, you can put like hundreds of thousands of attributes for each backlog item. Their limits are crazy. The limits are crazy how many fields you can include into your backlog. So within your backlog, you have the key point like the name, right? And the real key point here, as far as Agile, is this story points against each backlog item. And if you had a good coach, if you're lucky you had a good Agile coach, you will explain that each story needs to be consistent with other stories, so you would not have the bigger stories and smaller stories in one bucket. So you would have kind of one rule by which you would create additional stories. Fibonacci sequence, as a typical sequence, you may use another sequence. It's up to you how you want to use it. But typically, the more we know, the more we don't know, or the more unknowns, the higher the probability of the work that we need to spend on the unknowns or complex items. So you allow basically your teams to go and click on the stars, click and vote for complexity. Oh, I think this is more complex, or I think this is easy. So you, on average, naturally will have the grooming exercise going 24/7. 24/7. You can always override this number if you need to. At the time when you actually pull this into a sprint, you can say, oh yeah, no. There was 13. It was too complex. It's actually going to be. We're going to be done with this like in 2 days. It's actually 3. So let's just update and make it 3. But you have this option to call, on a Scrum meeting or on a team, say, oh, there are backlog items assigned to my team. Go ahead, guys. Each of you click on the star. You can immediately see these results. Immediately. Team rooms, where each team room you have, this is my team, A team, right? We have the team and we have 5 people, and I say, okay, my PMO, we have a new team member, John just joined our team. He's part of our team. So I click on my team and I see all my sprints, I see all my projects related to me, I see all the information that will pertain to my team where I'm possibly going to be assigned to. And I can see, oh, someone is pulling me into some other project. No. I can see it right away in my team. There's a concept of a teams. I'm very familiar with the Agile framework. Time check. All right. So an example. This is a screenshot, but we'll probably get to more details of this time tracking. But the point I'm trying to make here: Waterfall and Agile tasks will show up in one time tracking screen. So if you need to track the time, for both Waterfall and Agile, we can do this in one under one umbrella, one button. Click on my timesheet. All my active plans or actual, you can start filling up 8 hours, 8 hours, 8 hours, click save and done. So for both, right? Oh, this is a cool thing from recent cool thing from Microsoft Office Mix when you can embed the video clip right in your presentation. So I'm just gonna start running this. So this is, so I don't have to switch the mode of the presentation. I can just show you some video right there. So it's basically how you can manage your backlog within the Project Online. This is Project Online. Believe it or not, this is. I can show you live, all these things. But you can manage your backlog, move things around, move the stories, from in progress to completed, move it from iteration or to sprint, from sprint to sprint, drag and drop, assign resources. You can do all that within Project Online. So that's the concept. If you're using the external tools like Jira, this becomes how you set it up. It becomes basically where the source of truth. Typically, you would want to hold them accountable for Jira updates, let's say, and then this becomes only view only. But you don't have to go to Jira or to run some other reports to see what's going on there. You just click on that PDP page and say it will load all the information from the current sprint. Like you can switch between sprints or iterations, and look what's in status, what's in progress, what's done, what's not done. You can look at all the information from here and make the call and say what's going on, with this story or something. Okay. So this is where we're typically would just say that within Agile, we promote a lot of communications, daily scrums. We encourage open environments. We encourage people to talk all the time. At some point, it's like the data. Right? I mean, for the last three or 4 years, the amount of data tripled, in the world compared to what the world had 3 years before. And the trend is going to just go higher and higher. The amount of data we need to process all the time. We have meetings, we have calls, we have this, we have, have to come to this session, right? Full out of blue, you need to spend half a day, here without, and then guess what? When you finish this half a day, everything that you needed to communicate to will fall into the second half of the day. So you have, it's never-ending process. So we need to, at some point, control and see maybe it makes sense or it doesn't make sense to encourage this communication at this, at this particular level. So we're trying to embrace, first of all, informal communication, which is the best, best quality of the communication when you can talk to the person, directly without talking to masses. Because every time you're at the meeting, when there are like 5 people, or just say 5 people, they're meeting for 5 people, just look at it and try to count how many actually engage in the meeting. I'm telling you, 3 people are like looking at the emails, not even engaged in the meeting. So we're spending like hour for these 3 additional people on this meeting, just we thought it's going to be a good idea to have them maybe say a word or 2 during this hour. So this is not effective. This is not effective way of communication. So what we're trying to say here, we're embracing this informal communication, and we're providing this platform of Skype for Business, and this you click and you can talk to and chat to the person, maybe have someone join in the call or sharing the screen. This all embedded into this platform for Office 365. And so you can use this collaboration platform and don't waste people time on this 20 people status calls. I mean, who doesn't hate them? I mean, I have to dial into some of these calls and just sit there. If I'm lucky, I'm remote and I can do some cooking when I'm listening to this. But this is really wasting my time. I hope they're not hearing me right now. Anyway, so. A couple of samples of reports from both Waterfall and Agile would come over in the form of the histogram or the heat map or any of those solutions that Jose was presenting from Proving Pro. We have basically we have basically the information merged from these two Agile and Waterfall frameworks within the PPM, and there are different technical aspects of where to actually store and keep this data. I don't want to get too technical here, but the point is that we map it out, we ask them to be accountable for their piece, and we have this simple mapping in place, and we know aggregation rules. We just run the report, pull the data, and present it. As a PMO, would only be involved into tweaking the data or not. We need to hold accountable people who are responsible for the data to provide the data. And for doing that, we're allowing them to work within the tool set of choice of they're comfortable with. So another cool video from Office. I mean, I'm showing some of the Office Mix capabilities to embed the video. So I don't know if I get credit for Office, but anyway, this is the out of the box, available to anyone who has one Project Online license, to have all this information within your Excel, or Excel services available to you to drill through the data like real time, click, filter, unfilter. You can set it up like in an hour and have all that available. Oh, I want to know show me everything for John Smith, and John Smith, all the tasks, everything for John Smith will be shown. What releases he's involved, what products he's involved. Oh, by team, show me the team 1, team 2, team 3. What are they involved into? This information is available right there. It's out of the box basically, and it takes some Excel skills to build some charts basically. That's all. So not to say you can put it on steroids and push it to Power BI and make it all enterprise-wide available to everyone. There's a whole presentation about the Power BI, and we don't want to spend time on that. But that would be it from me as far as what I wanted to share. And I do welcome any questions that you may have. And we have another 5 minutes. Daniel, correct me if I'm wrong. How much time do we have until we?
5 minutes for questions.
5 minutes for questions. Okay. So, any questions from anyone online?
There was a question that came on a little earlier this morning. It was that they are looking to learn some of the best practices for a PMO when they transition from Waterfall to Agile. Could you comment on that?
I don't know if you've been heard. The question was, what are the best practices in regards to transitioning from Waterfall to Agile? Well, I can talk about what's the best practices overall in traditional in implementing Agile. I guess there are people smarter than me where they're practicing the Agile coaching, where I would really leave that question to them. But I can talk through this as far as Microsoft PPM, and in typical Microsoft PPM it was a challenge, right? And with the framework that we're proposing, we're basically asking PMOs to keep the portfolio level from portfolio level view at the Microsoft Project Online or Project Server, keep it as the portfolio view or the program management view, where you can hold the data and roll it up at the enterprise level. And then when you transition from Waterfall to Agile, well, you have to take a good, go through a rigorous training of your teams and the Scrum Masters to make sure they know what they're doing, because at the end of the day, the data that will come from the Agile teams will have to be consistent. They have to come up with velocities. They have to look at their velocities and make sure they're not jumping, they're not deviating too much. Like you can't have velocity of the team, changing like 50%, sprint to sprint. It means that you're not good at coming up with the estimation points for all the stories, where the stories are not, the good quality. They're not broken down the way they should be broken down. So there's a lot of things that pertain to good agile practices. But and then once you have that good agile practices in place, then you will be able to use this data and roll it up to the portfolio and understand, have this meaningful answers to the question how we're doing on this project. Because agile, you have a risk of not having these answers, even though you have good agile practices in place. If you don't know how to roll it up or how to report on the data, you will not be able to answer this question, which is essential for the PMO. If you're the head of the PMO, doesn't know the answer to the question how we're doing on this project, so what good we are as a PMO? We don't know what we're doing. And sometimes agile teams are leaning towards they would like to hide what they're doing, and by we just run to the next sprint. But how are we looking, from the big picture perspective? How long will it take? This question will be asked. And by doing only agile, focusing only on agile framework without having a bigger picture in place, you wouldn't be able to answer this question. So you need to somehow translate this agile, attributes, agile objects, sprints, backlogs, resources, releases. You need to somehow translate it into the PMO portfolio level language. So when you're being called and say, okay, we have 5 major milestones, we're spending $100 million on each of them, how are we doing on those projects? And you can't say, oh, we'll see next sprint. We don't know. The next sprint isn't started yet. We haven't started the prioritizing the backlog for the next sprint. It's not the answer. It's not the answer that is acceptable. You have to have some PMO, portfolio management, best practices in place to support this information at the portfolio level from agile teams. It's got to be laid out as a nice, complete framework, not just agile. Hopefully that answers the question, at least from my perspective. All right.
We have another question for the person. Any more questions? We have time to answer one more. I think this person's a little bit late in the presentation. It's probably a little bit earlier, but what are the costs associated to what you're showing? And also, how would you be able to talk about an ROI if it's
the cost of it is basically two components to the cost of it. And the first one is the licensing of the actual product, which is Microsoft Project Server or Project Online. Or there are different models how you can purchase it. You can basically go online and get the project online, in an hour using your credit card, and then you have buy one license, you're going to be good to go, right? I mean, you can get this this is software as a service. You can get it. More to say, you don't have to even spend the credit card. You spend your money on the first 3 months. First, John, what's the trial? Is it 30 days? So you can get basically up to 90 days the trial period to try, to see whether this is really working or not for you. But and I would say these two components, these are really going together, and I'm explaining you why. So the first one, you can just buy the software. That's the cost. You can look up and go online and say Project Online, Microsoft Project Online. You will see the cost of the license. That's right there available. The other component is actually to have someone to be with you side by side and make sense out of your business processes right now, out of your PMO processes, and see how it's the best way. What's the minimum impact on the destruction for the company to get you these valuable items from the technology to actually benefit the business, benefit the process. Because what's good if it's not benefiting the business or the process. So you need to have I guess some piece of advice, at least some piece of advice from the partner network to help to help to understand to understand what's the best practice in this particular case for your particular organization. What's the best practice to get this implemented? And as far as there was the cost. I'm sorry. What's the other question? ROI. Yeah, so the ROI is kind of a semi-subjective, right? It's qualitative and quantitative. We have like at least 2 slides very detailed out the research about the ROI for Project Online efficiency. We will definitely include to all of those folks that are online and live over here at Microsoft Technology Center in New York City. So we'll share that information. That's the quantitative, so like actual numbers, how many percent we can save on the budget, yada yada. The qualitative analysis of this particular answer is basically it depends on how complex your current processes are and how automated you want to be and how much time you will save. After all, I mean, it's typically saying that we will save 20-30% of project managers' time. So if you calculate the salaries of project managers and say, okay, 20-30%, you can get the efficiency so they don't have to spend half a day on Friday to pulling together 15 different spreadsheets together and running a pivot table. Hopefully that will give you good results, and then put it up on display for your weekly steering committee report, right? Which you need to produce on a regular basis. So that would save that time. But I would say that you can calculate that, but you cannot calculate something like, you catch your executive, on Thursday, and you say, well, I'm not going to be on the meeting on Friday. Can you send me this report today? And if you were planning to spend the time tomorrow to pull this report together, you can actually, sure, I can send you the link, or I can send you the screenshot. I can click the button and then get you this information right there. Well, guess what? This information may change by tomorrow, but this is as of today. Wow, this is good. This is information on Thursday when this executive may make a key decision early in the game before we even get to the status meeting. He would know, I can look at this on a regular basis. I can make some decisions without having this 20 people in the room that are wasting their time. We can have this all, and they will definitely appreciate it. There are apps, there are different, browsers that they can use. You can set up the access to the executive flavor information when they click on this button. They have everything they need in one page. They click on this project, they're done. They have the information in hand that you provided to them, so they can act and not spend time, make decision earlier. I mean, what's the ROI on a good decision, earlier in the game versus, reactively later in the game? I think could be lost, but it's just hard to say, for different people it's different, right? Some companies lose millions, some companies lose thousands of dollars. It's just you can't tell which one is which. But that's the making the point is that you would be able to make key decisions basically real time and be proactive in how you manage in your portfolio. You can be proactive. You can manage your client's expectations better. You see that you're billing more than you should have been billed, and you may have some issue ahead of time. You can see this information right there, real time, and talk to your customer, talk to your clients. Whether this is a consulting business or this is the internal organizational, client relationship or stakeholder relationship management, you can have all this information, and when you talking to someone to set the expectation, you actually have the information that supports your statement. It's not, John, we're going to be late. Sorry, we're going to be late. Well, yeah, we screwed up. Sorry, John. I mean, we just screwed up, right? Well, this is one option. How about this option? John, based on the billing, based on the issues and risks, the information, everything is documented. we hit this issue with some of the requirements, and that's why we'll be able to catch up. Not be able to catch up, but you have good information to tell to this customer, and not that his reaction will be, oh, you didn't screw it up. You did the best you could to manage it. That's a total different results you can get from managing the stakeholders. You can do either or. So first of all, let's go this way. The project online is part of this Office 365 family of products. So you may have, if you already have Office 365, it just makes total sense to, have another team member to join the family. But you can also be purchased separately. You don't have to have. We have clients that purchase just Project Online and not not Office 3. It's per user per month. Yeah, per user per month. And there's three types of licenses. So there's a first type of license is a full-blown Project Online and Project Professional available for download up to 5 devices. Up to 5 devices. So that's Project Online access, full access, and Project Professional for Office 365, which you can download to up to 5 of your devices. So you have if you're working on your home computer, you're working on your other 5 devices, right? That's full-blown license. The second license is only Project Online. I would say you don't need Project Professional. You don't build complex schedules. You don't need that. You just want to do it within Project Online using Microsoft Cloud. Project Online done. No tools. On your laptop additionally installed or anything. Completely online. That's actually a cheaper license, right? Just Project Online. And the third one is a Project Lite for team members. So for those who doesn't for those who don't need to do the scheduling, manage projects, team members who needs to fill out the timesheet or report the status on the task or look up some information on the project or collaborate on my project, put some issues, risks, actually work on the project. So this is Project Lite is really more than enough. So there are three levels with that. Then you can purchase either one or combination of both. All right, I guess that would be it. Thank you so much, everyone, for everyone on the line and live here. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it. Please, if you have any other questions, you know my number, you know my email, you know everything about me. So please reach out. Just let us know that you're interested, and we will answer all the questions. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Oh, my parents are calling. Maybe. Hello?